going on, guys? So today I'm going to be going over the concept of breaker blocks. So breaker blocks are basically an order block that gets broken through. It's in the name. Basically, it's a simple concept, but being used correctly, you will be able to you'll be able to make a lot of money and profit a good amount of pips using it correctly. So here is an example of an order block. So right here, as you can see, price, this is just an example. Let's just say price pushed up, came down, retraced, created an order block in the concept, maybe had a bullish engulfing, whatever it did, but then price then pushed up higher and eventually retraced back to it. In this case, if you would have seen that price started maybe rejecting this, maybe it had also lined up with a fib, something like this, you could possibly look for a retracement of some sort to then push higher. But in this case, a breaker block is when this order block is pushed through like this. So in this case, price pushed down, broke through it, and then what you would want to do from this point is you will keep that order block there. You would not take it away, nothing. The only way you will take it away is when it's not being used at all. So in this case, what you will want to do, you'll wait for a retracement. So from here, at this low, you would then wait for a retracement, expecting price to possibly, it's not always going to happen, you got to keep in mind, possibly retrace back to this order block, which is now a breaker block, where you could look for rejection. Majority of the time that I've noticed where these scenarios, these setups happen the best and have the best probability of happening is when it also is in confluence with the 38.20% continuation level on the fib. These two confirmations are very key. And overall, if you see that price is breaking structure in a downtrend, that's one confirmation, a downtrend. You see price start to retrace to the 38.20% continuation level, which is another confirmation. And depending, say it was at a 33,500 level or 33,800, maybe 34,000. If it's at one of our whole number levels that we tend to trade with, that's 3 confirmations. And if it's also at a breaker block, which is a previous order block, that is 4 confirmations right there off of that, using just a fib, price action, and using these breaker blocks, which were originally order blocks. So you're not changing much, you're just going with the flow of what's going on. So I'm going to show you now some examples that I've traded the last few days. From the last 2 days, I've came across 2 different examples of this happening. So our first example is going to be right here. I'm going to go back in time right here. This is a case of a breaker block working. Don't mind all this markup up here. We're only looking at what's happening right here. So let's just go back even farther. Right here. In this case, like I was saying, right here is an order block. This is a 4-hour bearish order block. And from here, you would possibly look for possible sells to get short in the market to possibly go lower. But in this case, what happened? It got broken through. So in this case, you would not take away this order block. You would just keep it in the back of your mind. You're not going to look for rejection right away. It could happen, but it's not always going to happen. Mind you, we're on the 4-hour time frame. So then from here, you keep this in mind. This is no longer an order block. This is now a breaker block. So from this point, price then starts to break these highs, doing what it's going to do. But mind you, you're just keeping in mind this breaker block is here. You're going to go about your day finding your regular trade setups, doing whatever you do. But in this case, I'm just showing you when price does respect it, because eventually price did come all the way back down to this breaker block. And like I said, use your confirmations. In this case, it wasn't a 38.20% continuation, but it still came down to our 70.50% fib level. And in this case, what happened? If you go to lower time frames, price was rejecting off of this all the way from here. And this is a trade that I called out in my Telegram, which is, where is it at? Right here. This is exactly what I was looking at. The breaker block, 4-hour breaker block. This on a 1-hour time frame. Rejected the 70.50%. And mind you, one thing I always stress, guys, is time of day is key. Around this time was 12 o'clock, so all the momentum from the New York move was now going away. And around 12 o'clock on US 30, it's not all pairs will have a reversal at 12 o'clock, but US 30 tends to have reversals at 12 o'clock. And I know this from experience and back testing this pair. Not all pairs are going to be like this. So that was multiple confirmation that I had to see price have a reversal at this time. So we had the 70.50% is one confirmation, time of day, 2 confirmations, the breaker block, 3 confirmations, and overall, if you look and keep in mind, we're still in this overall uptrend, and this is just a higher low. So that was overall 4 confirmations for this trade that I had took to then see higher prices. So that's one example of this breaker block working. Another example is right here. What is happening as of right now? From one breaker block, price is trading to another one. So the same thing, price broke down lower. This order block that could have possibly got rejected, if you look at it from right here, it did reject it a little bit. Some people probably got stuck in this market, so price was rejecting. It probably trapped some buyers in here. Then from here, this is technically an order block before it gets broken through, but right here, when this gets broken, is no longer order block because it's not being respected. So at this point, you can now look at it as a 4-hour breaker. So you could look for price to possibly retrace to it and then reject. So one thing I did here on the 4-hour time frame, I had it marked up from the high, the fib, and I drew all the way to this low, because right here, this is where price started to reject. You could have drawn it lower on the 1-hour time frame, but I kept it at this whole number level because it tends to respect these whole number levels way better. So I had it drawn from this 34,500 and the top of this high. So what you want to do, you just want to wait for price to possibly retrace all the way back to this 4-hour breaker block. And that is exactly what price started to do. We had this uptrend push, and mind you, in this area where the breaker block is, the 38.20% continuation level is here. So that's 2 confirmations, the 4-hour breaker block and the 38.20%. Also, you're keeping in mind that we have this short-term downtrend. So we have the higher high to possibly make a higher low, to possibly make another lower low, to keep on having this downtrend. So what did price do? Slowly but surely, price kept going higher. We had a push that turned into a wick right here. It wicked this 4-hour breaker block, wicked the 38.20%. So we have multiple confirmations in this area, and also another confirmation that you have in this area is right here. There was an imbalance from these 2 wicks, and if you know about imbalances, this is a liquidity where the market tends to trade to. And mind you, you had this fib up here too, so price could have likely came even higher, but in this case it didn't. So it's all about situations, and setups are not always going to be the same. It's about getting the best setup that you can possibly get. That's why in this order block, we originally had the 50% mark, and we left it marked with the breaker block also, because this would have been your best entry you could have got. In this case, it would have been, you would have had maybe 70-point stop. If you would have had it above here, maybe 100. It all depends on the person, depending on where you got into the market, and depending on your size of the account. At the end of the day, everyone's different, but we had multiple confirmations in this area. So the confirmation we had this overall 4-hour breaker block. We had these imbalances being filled, so 50% of it got filled. So we were looking at these imbalances. We also were keeping in mind that we rejected this 38.20% continuation level, and we're also keeping in mind that we're in a overall temporary downtrend. So we had a lot of confirmation to take this trade, mind you. And the last confirmation we had was the time of day. What time was this trade happening? 9 o'clock. Do you see all the confirmations that we have? 9 o'clock to 9:30, that is the New York SE, New York Stock Exchange open, and that's when a lot of volume comes into the market. And then from here, we had 5 confirmations to take this sell trade, and then from here, price then started to fall. In this case, it's pushing up right now, but if you look to how far it fell and to where to, price then came and took these lows out with an overall move from up here, 200-point move. And where did it come to? If you look on a 30-minute time frame, it came to a lower time frame order block. So that's why all these things that I teach you guys on this channel, they all come into confluence, and you are using them at all times. So these are all trades you could have took. I show you 2 examples that happened within the same week of breaker blocks being used. 2 examples. It's not always going to happen this often. I usually don't see breaker block trades happen that much, but maybe I just didn't see them, and I'm starting to see them more now. But they happen, And when they do happen, you're able to catch a good amount of trades if you put all the confirmations together. If you, here, I'm gonna write all the confirmations right here. So the confirmations you want to always keep in mind is you want to have fib, that's one confirmation, trend, time of day, order blocks / breakers. These are really the only things you need. And then the areas that you could target are imbalances. And you can also target order blocks. But these are basically all the confirmations you need. And in this case, the areas that we could have targeted were the imbalances, which were up here in this still general vicinity of confirmations, confluence, which then had a drop off. This is all you need. There is setups that you could look for every week that will give you a good amount of pips. You don't need to be trading every single day because you're not going to get setups that are valid every single day. There's setups that you want to take that have high probability of working in your favor, and these are the setups that you want to take. So this is just a little simple video of me going over breaker blocks because I haven't gone over them on my channel, and after the last 2 days of me catching trades using these breaker blocks, they work and they give you a good amount of pips. And mind you, this happens on anything, not just US30. You can go to forex pairs, crypto pairs, stock pairs. It's all gonna happen because this is how the market moves. In my case, I only trade US30, so that's why I'm always showing you examples using US30, because this is how I trade. But yeah, that's really it overall for US30. I'm still expecting it to take out these equal highs on the daily time frame, because what do you know about equal highs? That's where the liquidity is in the market. And if you also look what's happening, it rejected, price came down, rejected this order block, daily order block, so that's major. And I'm just expecting price is going to continue to push to eventually take these highs out, possibly today or tomorrow, maybe not. But overall, I want to see these highs taken out soon, which is 35,000, which is going to make all-time highs. And I'm just hoping to see that soon. But that's really it. Hopefully you guys understand this concept of breaker blocks better now, and you could go and back test them, because I want everyone to back test them. Don't just take my word for it. I want you to see them work in live time. Go back test so you can see them in the market, because without practice, you're not going to be able to use these concepts efficiently. So that's really it. Hopefully you guys found this video helpful, and I'll